In this video I want to weld a new railing for my balcony, because this one sucks.
We'll have a lot of welding, strategies to aligning parts, and a few problems along the way.
That's no good. I don't know what I did wrong. But unfortunately there's a problem. Because there's a problem.
Grab a snack and enjoy the video.
Being built from flat bar, it's pretty uncomfortable and also kind of a wasteful design. The brick wall running along the whole length would be a really nice surface to put stuff on, but with the railing in front of it, it's kind of unusable. So the one I want to build will kind of extend all the way to the front here, go up, and then out here is the railing. And it has to be mounted to the inside wall, because this being a brick wall, on the outside is insulation and you can't mount stuff there. And of course, making it from stainless steel will be much nicer. This will be a big project. Let's get to work.
Of course, the old one has to go first. Hey, stop judging my tree. It got pests and is recovering. Here's the new design. 5 S-shaped pieces, the long rail on top, and 4 shorter rails near the mounting flange.
Oh, and this project began in August 2024, still in the old workshop. This is also the first project that puts my welding fixture table I built in a video to proper use. Now the material I have is 40 by 40 millimeter stainless box section for the main rail, 30 by 40 millimeter stainless box section for the S-shaped pieces, and that's 3 millimeter wall thickness, and 8 millimeter stainless steel plate for the mounting flange. The best part about this material is that it's already cut to dimension with the miters, because I could buy all this from a friend who runs a company and he has the proper equipment to cut stainless like this or laser cut stainless like this. I also got a bunch of offcuts to practice with, and since this is my second proper welding project, that's obviously what I started with off camera. That was the first piece, and I mean, it's not terrible, but there was still room to improvement. At least the angle turned out pretty much 90 degrees. The second one was an improvement, but I already ground that flush, because that's how it will eventually be. And the third try, that went pretty good, I would say. There's still room to improvement, but here that's cleaned off a little bit, and I don't think this looks too bad. So now, instead of spending more time practicing, I'll jump straight into the real parts, because I need 5 of these S-shaped pieces. I've got enough material for 7, so I can't screw up twice. This is what it needs to be. 4 pieces and 3 90-degree welds. The best chances to get 5 identical ones of these is by building a jig. And I'm gonna start this with just a board in between here that sets this distance. The distance should be 130 millimeters, but when I check with the actual pieces, it's more like 131, but that's okay. Now I just need to get the right board. And of course, it's on the top shelf in the bottom of the stack. Let's see, 90-degree corner here and here, but a little bit of wiggle room. I could make the jig narrower to make this go away, but a little bit of a gap is not too bad to fill up with weld. Let's also check other pieces. This is basically the same. This one. Oh, okay, that's already tight. Okay, so then I leave the jig at that width, because if I make it narrower, this won't fit in here anymore, and I will have to regrind it, which I really want to avoid. Next would be some kind of a stop for this piece. This should be 50 millimeters, but again, measuring the actual parts, it's more like 51. Okay, That's done. Now I can cut this to length. Here it looks like the pieces are exactly 300 millimeters. Except for this one. Okay, let's also go with 301. And the last part is another stop for this part. I've also removed the inside and outside corners that could later interfere with the welds. And now I can very quickly position all parts. And if I use two of my dogs in the welding table, I can line it up here. And everything is positioned and square. And I can clamp down the parts. Okay, clamped secure, I can now slide out the jig. And I've got perfect access to all inside and outside corners for tacking. But unfortunately, I can't just start tacking, because this being stainless, the weld preparation is very important. I put a small chamfer on all edges, except for the pointy one, because there I'll just use the pointy material itself as the filler material. When I weld there, this will naturally then round over a bit, which is what I want. And after that, I cleaned off all the burrs and the surrounding surfaces with a cleaning disc in the mini angle grinder. It doesn't look like all that much, but it took about 2 hours. Well, and this is how I look after all this work. The last step, of course, is cleaning all the parts. So I first vacuumed off all the dust from the parts and then the table. And now cleaning everything with acetone. Because last time when I made the welding table, I showed how I cleaned all the parts with a brake cleaner, and there I got a lot of concerned comments about brake cleaner releasing phosphorus gas when it gets heated through the welding. I didn't know about that, but I looked up my brake cleaner and it doesn't contain any phosphorus, so it should be safe. But I mean, no need to risk anything, so I got some acetone. But well, the risk now is that I'm getting dizzy. But yeah, that's why the windows are wide open. Okay, I've done 2 more tests off camera, which was a good idea, because this first one did not turn out square. This joint closed a bit like so. And the second one, yeah, also. That was probably because I had the wrong order of welds. So on the second try, this basically turned out flawless, as far as I can tell with this jig. And here the order I used was first the outside corner, then the 2 faces inside to outside. And until then, the joint was open up a bit. And lastly, the fillet weld, when it cooled down, it pulled it back into square. And yeah, I think that's the right order of operation. But now it counts. It's tacked together. Let's see if the jig still fits. No, this piece warped a little bit inwards. But the rest seems good. Yeah, it's also square still, except for this piece. After a while, I had the system going. First clamping down the long piece, then the template aligns the next piece, and I clamp this secure, and then the other 2. Except this one doesn't fit. This one works. Then I slide out a template and put a clamp over the last joint. All done, ready to weld. shit. Believe it or not, that's the first time this happened. I don't know why, but I dipped the tungsten again. Now I can check with the templates, and on pretty much every one it didn't fit, but checking the other angles with the square, they look pretty damn on. Oh yeah. So far I'm very happy with the consistency I got from this setup with the jig and the tacking. So next is welding them solid. For this the setup is pretty simple. I just positioned a bunch of dogs that I can rest a part on. Now I have very good access to this corner and this face and room on the bottom. Then I can flip it around and do this side and the fillet, while the weld bead is off the table, so everything still rests flat on it. I'm pretty happy with this result. Now so far the angle doesn't look that good, but now when I weld the fillet, that shrinkage should pull it back into a 90-degree angle. This result is also not too bad. This is a very convenient shape to let it cool down. So far I've welded up 4 in total and I'm pretty happy with how it's going, except for some of the outside corners. They are quite ugly. One reason I think is the fact I'm welding it on the table like this, and gravity is working against me. When the weld puddle is hot, it wants to float down, obviously. I could also just weld it like this, which just makes more sense. It starts shaking. Not anymore. And my helmet's too dark. Ah, this one turned out nice. Now all 7 of them are done, and after a post on Instagram after the first 4, I got a few tips on how to improve the welds even more. This is one of the first 4, and this is one of the last 3. Nice improvement, and basically the tip was just to weld a bit faster. That's it. Next now, the flanges need to be welded on, but before I can do that, I need to grind this weld off, because later there will be another piece welded on top. Altogether, I'm very happy with how it's going so far, especially with how accurate the angles turned out. This one, for example, is just perfect. And another one is not quite as perfect, but still pretty close. Okay, now to make sure that the flanges get welded on straight and square, I think the best chances are again by building a jig. First, I need to raise this off the table by 25 millimeters so it sits centered in the flange like this. And to make the spacers, I can again use my dogs and just thread something on top to make them a bit taller. I made 3 of them, and this ensures it's perfectly level and doesn't rock. And this slides just in place. Now the distance from here to the flange needs to be 25 centimeters, as well as the distance from here to the top edge of the flange is also 25 centimeters. So I can again build a jig that will position the pieces like this. One that's resting against here with a little hook referencing on top. And a second piece that's 25 centimeters long, screwed to here, with also a hook on the top referencing the top edge of the flange. And when this is then together, this should align the pieces correctly. Okay, this washer here is the hook for the flange. And right here I need to build the jig a little bit taller with another piece about this long. Like 12 centimeters. Like this. I also added another piece here that makes sure that this flange is square. And that's the jig done. But it took a little bit of fiddling to find the workflow with the jig. I think I got it. I first take a flange, align it in the jig and press that against 2 dogs on the table. Like that, I clamp the jig in place. Because the steel is a lot stiffer than the wooden jig, and the clamps ensure that it really won't move. Then I take my part, rest it under 3 standoffs, align it right here on the top of the jig, and then I have a little bit of wiggle room in the flange, so I can align it kind of centered in it, and then clamp it down as well. And with the part touching the jig here and the flange here, everything should be aligned, still have room for tacking, and all the misalignment from before doesn't matter anymore, because everything that counts now is the relationship between the position of the flange and here. Okay, now I can remove the jig and tack the rest. That's tacked, but I already destroyed my first tip. Great. Now I can bring the jig back in place to check the alignment, and unfortunately I can see a gap here, which means the flange shifted like this. That's no good. I don't know what I did wrong. So for the second piece, I will now first tack this side and then this side. Let's see. Same gap. Third piece with an additional clamp here. Let's see. Okay, now I got no gap. And what I changed was I welded quicker on this side to have less heat shrinkage. Probably that was a problem on the other two. I don't know. Let's try the next one. Alright, now they're all tacked. Not the prettiest, but they were hard to reach. Now I will first weld this side like so, and since the tube is sticking a bit past the plate, I probably don't need any filler and can just use the tube as the filler. Also, until now I welded everything with 84 amps, which worked great, but now this thicker plate I upped the current to about 100 amps. Let's see. So far so good. I didn't have to use any filler because I can use the box section here as my filler and just kind of melt that in. Here I was going at about 100 amps and going a little bit back and forth. And here I up to 120 amps and try to hold still and just move along. Both of them turned out pretty good. Here I think I can go a little bit faster. But I want you to better see what's going on, so I tried just holding a welding mask in front of the camera. which didn't work so well because, yeah, there's just too much background light from the welding arc. So I built this. I got another cheap welding mask, took out the auto darkening cassette and 3D printed an adapter for the camera. And this now just slides in place here. And this end just fits on the lens. Now you should see what I can see. Next now are the fillets on the other side, but I can't weld them all the way around because on the sides are bolts and they need some space. So I need to start and end the weld right about there. And now, since I have two very different thicknesses, I should concentrate the heat on the plate for the fillet and only like kind of touch the box section to not blow a hole into it and get proper penetration into the thicker plate. Let's see.
Unfortunately, I didn't get any good close-ups of these welds, so I put the camera in a corner and just enjoyed the welding. At least until...
Ow! Ah! Fuck! Don't lean on hot things. Ouch! Now I've got them all welded solid and clamped in line on the table here, everyone against the dog, so they are aligned here. And if they're all the same, they should also align in the front. If you look across them, it looks pretty good, except for this one. Checking this here, yeah, there you can also see it leans a little bit forward, so I won't use that one. And I don't mind because it also has an ugly weld here. And since I only needed 5 to begin with, I can now pick the 5 best ones. I picked my 5 winners and now it's cleaning up time because I have good access to all welds now.
A good example of a bad time lapse. You can't really see anything. But then on the balcony, my dad and I got them all mounted and they line up really well.
Next come the pieces that go in between each support, right here. But welding them up, I will do mostly here on the table again, because here I can have a setup. This part against here, the other one here, which ensures there's a 90-degree corner. Then making this 40 millimeters, clamp it, ready for tacking. First one turned out pretty good, especially the sides that you can see. But what was to be expected is a distortion, like it makes a curve right now. Maybe I have to heat up this side as well to get it straight again, but I'll continue with the other ones first and take care of that later. Second weld also turned out pretty nice. But also here the weld distortion is noticeable. I think when I weld on the second piece, it will bend it back. Let's see. I got the setup ready. The current parts align with these two dogs on the table, and the part I'm joining aligns with these two dogs. So this should be perfectly in line. Okay, and while this is cooling and hopefully pulling everything straight again, I can tack on the next. This is tacked, and if we now look along the whole assembly, it looked like it remained very straight. Pretty cool. And while that's cooling, I can prepare the long rail piece. And at first I will close this by welding on a cap. Okay, bending this back into square with heat from the other side worked. And now I've set it up to attach the rail on top. It's flush here, it's flush in the middle, and here it's not too far off. I can just clamp that in place again. Now tacked together, I can turn it around. And weld parts of it solid. This one's good. This one's okay. This end stays just tacked for now. I will weld it solid when I attach the other pieces from the other side, so the weld distortion is more even. So for now, this can go on the shelf. Heavy. Really heavy. On the second segment, I also welded the end solid and heated the other side to prevent warping. Now if we check with this angle from the jig, that seemed to work. That's an even gap. Now it continues on the balcony. Okay, now everything is here, including the welder, to mount everything to the wall here and then finish weld it.
That alignment looks great. Well, never mind. That was the only part that needed adjustment. Then hammered in place, and with a makeshift windshield, I could secure everything. Yeah, the tree got a big haircut, but it will come back. We then put it back onto the sawhorses for welding solid, and my dad helped me again with wind protection.
Okay, next day, and everything is welded up and cooled down. Everything that's left is, I want to grind this weld here flush, so this main rail looks like one piece. Everything else I'll just satin finish and leave the weld beads exposed. Everything is cleaned up, so next comes mounting it. But unfortunately there's a problem. For now we just mounted it with 2 bolts to see how the others align, and they don't align that well. This one here is almost good, but this one, for example, just will never work. So the plan now is to mark all the hole locations as they are right now, then drill bigger holes and mortar in some dowels at the right locations. Now I let this dry and then drill new holes. It's a couple days later, the cement is proper cured and hard. Now I can use this template to mark the new hole locations and drill new holes. To increase my chances of the drill not wandering, because this new cement is now really hard and the surrounding brick is a lot softer, I'm going to start with a smaller bit and then work my way up incrementally until I'm at the target diameter. Okay, that went pretty well with the 5mm, target is 14. And I also started with the hammer drill because that has a lot more control than the rotary hammer. I'm going to continue with this and see if it's powerful enough for these holes or if I'm going to switch to this one. Okay, that was the 8mm bit and the alignment looks pretty well still. That went really well and wasn't hard to drill at all. Actually, it got easier the bigger the drills got. And I think that's because this stuff is really hard, but also very brittle. And another reason why I didn't want to use the rotary hammer, because it has much more powerful hammering action than this one. I was afraid that it might smash it into pieces. I'm pretty sure these will hold. For the mounting screws, I'm not going to reuse the previous hex head construction screws, because there's a problem. There is so little head clearance, you cannot get a nut on there. You'd have to turn it with the wrench one by one. I need something with a socket head, but in the construction type screw, this does not exist, so I'm now just using M10. And I see no reason why this shouldn't work. If you look at the engagement with this 10mm bolt and the anchor, it starts to get tight about here, or right about here. With the M10, it starts to get tight earlier. And I have all this anchor to go. I don't see any reason why this shouldn't cut a proper thread into this anchor.
A friend of mine showed up for the first barbecue this year and helped me with the final installation.
Well, and now it's done. Mounted super solid. This thing isn't going anywhere. Very happy with that. Also very happy with how it turned out overall. I like the design. And although I only gained like 25 centimeters of space, the whole balcony just feels a lot bigger, especially since this nice surface is now properly usable. And yes, it's way overbuilt, much stronger than what it needs to be for this kind of railing. But now there will be stuff added. This lower in-between tube seems useless, but it will be used to mount a flip-up table with this kind of hardware. So it will hook into the tubing and hold on to there. The lower part will just press against the wall, and then all the leg space will be free of stuff. Very comfortable to sit at. Can also then slide it to wherever position I want, along the whole length of the railing. Very cool, I think. Future video. And there will be something added for sunshade, also mounted to the railing, and probably some beams in here, because in the afternoon when the sun is burning down here, it gets too hot to be comfortable sitting out here. So with the high leverage from the table being mounted here, and especially the sunshade thing, I needed to overbuild this like I did.
Oh yeah, and the tree? My mom's taking care of it at the moment, and it will come back. Eventually.